You know what genre of games is probably my favorite or second favorite? Game simulations. Simulating parts of a life, a job, or a different career, that's just fun to me. And the more complex the game, the better. And lo and behold, we've got a big one here. Mad Games Tycoon 2 is the most complex game development simulation I've ever played. It is 50 times more complex than Game Dev Tycoon, and about 10 times more than the first MGT. However, I'm not really here today to do a full guide about the whole game. This is going to be a guide about legendary difficulty, because this is the only way that this game is challenging. And don't you worry, this is a challenge. By far one of the hardest things I've ever done when it comes to simulation games. And today, I'm here to help you make your very own game company, make it grow through some very tumultuous time, with the help of a very good dose of luck as well. This is the Mad Games Tycoon 2 Legendary Guide. To start off with, we are starting a game in Legendary difficulty, without any bells and whistles and in normal dev time. With that said, this screen is already important. That's right, we just started, and it's already important. Something a little important to understand is that when you make 3 times a game on the same genre in a row, or at least in the last 5 games, you're going to have a malus of 50% less sales and no fan gain as long as you don't do a game that is different. There is a way to have one genre to go over that rule though, and that's your main genre that you choose. This thing is extremely important. Not only does it skip the board debuff, meaning you can make as many of your main genre as you want, but it also gives you an extra 3% on the rating of any game of that genre. Main thing to understand early on is that you'll definitely need the help early on for one of your genres. You'll understand soon why, but for now, understand this. It is much better to get an early game focused genre, so basically between the start of the game and 1983, which means that the newest genre at that point would be sports game. The reason for this is because ratings are much harder to increase at the beginning rather than later on. Myself, I always choose RPG, but that's just a personal stylistic choice. A good choice when it comes to the start of the game would be racing game. And again, you'll get why soon enough, but after making your company and choosing your country, which has no incidents anymore, just make your character. And again, this is interesting and important. Making your character, you have to keep in mind 2 things. Your stats and your perk. Perk-wise, this is the combo that works the best for me. But realistically, you don't need error-free. Talented, all-rounder, and efficient are the big ones. 1 boosts your learning speed 2-folds, which is extremely important later on. The second is a 10-point increase in the secondary stat limit, and the last one is a boost of 10% in all speeds, which again, you can't pass on that. For stats, the important thing is to not just go with a single stat. Make sure you get a good mix between all 4 main stats for game dev. A start like this is good, but you can experiment a bit. This isn't the most important, but at least add 5 points on all the main 4 stats. And finally, after almost a full page of my script, we're in the game. By the way, this guide is for the main first tutorial map, but this still works pretty much the same for the other maps, but they're actually easier, depending on the map. You don't want to go in the manor. Definitely not. Some timings are a little different, but not too much. The good thing with the first map, of course, is starting with $20,000 extra when taking away the car, which is not negligible when thinking about how little money you'll have early on. Before even making a move on the map, you will want to check 2 things. First, what is the trending genre? You may think this isn't important, but all the contrary. If the genre is either skill game or puzzle game, you can continue. If the bad genre is skill game or puzzle game, you can reset the game and start over. This isn't a joke. Same thing, if you look at the available employees and don't find a researcher, you can reset and start another game until all those conditions are met. One more thing, go into employee settings and change those to higher values, else your employees will be really weak at one point and you will really see the decrease in speed, let me tell you. I have not said this, but RNG in this mode is everything. Unfortunately, Legendary isn't dependent only on your own skill. Actually, your skill is like 50% of the whole game. Now, yes, this is a bad point against this mode, which isn't the funnest thing out there because of that reason. However, when you have a game where all the stars align, / when you have reset enough times and loaded the saves enough to get something good going, there's a rush of dopamine for sure, especially when you unlock like AA or AAA games. And finally, let's talk rooms now. At the start, you will need all 4 available rooms, but don't make them too big. Make a normal-sized lounge and some toilets that in the long run could have 3 in, maybe, not even needed. And in making rooms too big, you'll just result in you using too much money and having half-filled room anyway. So make sure that the rooms can be okay for like 4 people in the dev room and 2 or 3 for research at the beginning. And later a total of 8 for that room. And for the dev room, the max should be 9. But, you know, you won't really feel the difference between like an 8 and a 10. And with that, you may see a big empty space though. But don't worry, this space will be filled with something else anyway. And now, we can finally talk about your first game. False, we can't yet. First, we have to talk about research. This is the most important room in the game. Never disregard this room or the amount of people needed in it to make it work. And so yeah, why are we talking about this first? Because if you followed what I said and reset until you got a good researcher, that doesn't cost too much money, so basically under 2,500 is what you're looking for. But then you'll start with the first gameplay feature, and you'll do that before the first game. And when I say first game, do not believe that we will be making games for ourselves at the beginning, because making a game now without having any experience is a death sentence. Each feature, genre, console, topic, they all have a star rating attached to them. This star rating is your experience on a given feature. A star is extremely important. See, at the beginning, when you have everything without stars, making a game is really slow. That's because something without stars has a 50% debuff in speed, as well as a 50% debuff on the stats it gives, and a 50% increase in cost as well. Before, it was only the power and cost debuff, but the speed one now is quite interesting too, and forces you to make games in order to become faster. However, the experience for those stars doesn't come cheap. When making a game under 50% rating, there's a set percentage of chance, given the rating of your games, that a feature doesn't get an extra star. This can happen on anything, from the genre, topic, features, or console not getting an extra star, basically meaning you've got to make another one to try and get a star again. But this isn't the biggest deal, and you'll mostly be feeling this only in the early game. But there's a chance it can be a bit annoying later on too, depending on how well you keep up with research. And so, with all of this explained, after working on a very generous contracted work given to you at the beginning of the game, which gives a really nice amount of extra money, by the way, but let's now work on your first contracted game. Again, contracted games, because we cannot generate a good enough amount of money with our own games. No matter what, without any stars, making your own game, at best, you can get 40%. Why contracted games then? Because they give you a set bonus amount of money for finishing the game with a minimum rating. The good thing is that early on, this rating will be between 5 and 20% only for B games, which are the smallest games available in the game. This is really important. Hopefully, also, you can get a game on a good genre. What is a good genre? Well, it's easy if you look at this sheet right here. This is my cheat sheet. It's a compilation of everything I've learned about this game in my 3 years of playing it, and just checking the QA room to get the perfect settings of a given genre. A big thing also, the third part, so the design settings, which are actually the most important part, they're given to you in QA after the first game in the genre. And this is when the good genre thing comes in. You may see that racing games have a design priority of 10, 40, 30, 20, meaning 40% of the game is graphics in importance, and then 30% is music. Lo and behold, those are the two stats that you will struggle early on the most. So a racing game is just not doable early on, because at best the rating would be 20%. And I'm not joking. Already getting a 30% on racing games is insane early on. With full stars, yes, doable, but without having the graphics room and the sound room, it's impossible to get anything better than 20% early. But on the other hand, skill game and puzzle only have 10% on both of those stats, with a high emphasis on gameplay and tech, which are stats you have, because they're all in the gameplay features. With that said, my sheet will now be available in the description of this video, but it's a view only. Even if I'd be interested in a social experiment to see what you do with it, I prefer to keep it clean and safe for everyone to use and get their good settings. I will keep updating it from time to time, so keep on the lookout for any changes on it. Now, with that said, making your first game should be easier. You know the settings for the game, you just need to add the mandatory language, and none other, because more would just be overkill and a waste of money. You're not looking to make sales with your own games here. You're just looking for the rating. My philosophy for those games is use less, make more. So the least you use, the more money you will get, because you don't get any money from the game sales, just the bonus on the contract. So reaching the rating number asked of you is all you need to get your money. You wouldn't get any more for a better game anyway, so save those few thousands. Trust me, they're important. With the money you can save, this will let you make a profit on those contracted games. And thanks to that, you can even think about making a game for yourself in the first year of gameplay. First thing, since you've not started a game without a skill or puzzle game as your trend, you're going to start a game on one of those two. The trending one, of course. And whereas the philosophy for contracted games is use less, make more, the one here is use more, hope for more. There is no guaranteeing that the games will actually make you money, but this is a game in which it does, because you chose the trending genre. If your game can be between 65 and 70%, you're golden, and it should be profitable. If it isn't, don't worry. It's still more experience for you and your company as well, because don't forget about the company star rating, which increases a lot of things. Like, for example, your bank loan, which sometimes you may need, but this is either here nor there. Use everything. Literally, just put everything you've got that isn't a red dot for features. Oh, right. Red dots just mean that they'll give you, like, no points for their cost. Sometimes it's still useful to put it in just because of the extra points they create while developing it, even if finishing a feature doesn't give you points. If you follow everything I say here, I think you should be on track for a 65%. Depending on the amount of stars you were able to accrue on your genres, if you're at least like 3 or 4 stars, definitely go for an own game on that genre as long as it's trending. By the way, do not wait too long. There's a limit for the first genre, and you never know what you're going to get after that time limit and the change in trend occurs. It may just end up falling on a genre that you cannot do afterwards, like racing, and if that's the case, good fucking luck making more own games in 1977 and 1978, and beyond actually. Anyway, assuming you're just making your games, be them contracted or not, you should reach year 2 with at least 100,000 left in the bank, or 200,000 if you're really lucky. And maybe you even got 2 games running. Who knows? Make sure not to make 3 games of the same genre, else people will get bored and you will have the 50% malice we talked about earlier. With the money you've got, assuming you also took all the features, especially the first engine feature on month 1, week 2, 1977, which is big because it's graphics points, even if, yes, you actually have to go through the stars again. Don't be mad, okay? This isn't the only time this will happen. But if you have the money at this point, I guess you should try and buy the quality assurance room, which is the final room that will fit into your first building. On other maps, you may get an extra building depending on the available space, but here on base map, this is as good as it gets. Just 5 rooms. But don't worry, the second building is $30 million. So yeah, not now, but the space it gives is definitely needed. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a bit because this is already my 4th page of the script. But basically, the game doesn't really change until B+ games are released, and you change gears here. B+ games are definitely an increase in difficulty, but most importantly, an increase in the money gain. This type of games should be available during 1979, and this is massive for you, let me tell you. B+ games are not enough to make money, but definitely enough to look into the future a bit more brightly. You won't be able to buy the second building unless a certain event happens that might help. I'm referring to real estate crash that reduces building costs by 50%, which is insane if it ever happens to you. If you have a normal game though, you will just keep going into 1980 and 1981, and then comes the next tech level. Level 2 is when things get also quite interesting, believe it or not. At that point, you've had an engine, and you sold it if you were smart, and if you did sell it, you would sell it just slightly under what the want to buy does. So basically, at the end of level 1, that would be a profit sharing of 5% and about $30,000, which is also the amount that you get for a B game anyway. Which, yes, now that B plus games are available, you should stop doing B games. But with level 2 also comes new consoles and bigger games. A games will be available between 1983 and 1984, but those aren't actually that important, because level 2 doesn't stick around for very long. Level 3 is very quick to follow, because of things like the Atari ST and the Amiga 1000 existing, and these will balloon the tech level forward. Side note, I'm just going on a tangent here, but like, the Amiga 1000 is absolutely the strongest PC that ever existed when looking at the time period. Like, sure, stronger things exist now, but when looking at what was available then, this was by far the strongest computer on the market. IBM couldn't even compete. Neither could Apple, because a Mac at that point sucked hard. Can you please have color for that stupidly high price, please? Anyway, with the advent of level 3, also comes in something else. AA games. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is when the game goes from very hard to impossible without saving. Seriously, try it, and then come back here crying. AA games cost a lot of money, and they're also the first games that can cost you, but also give you, millions. And when I say millions, I mean here $6 million dues. This is not only enough to buy the second building, which yes, you should already have at that point, but it's also, with only 2 games, able to buy you the third building. And trust me, you will have a lot of them available on the market. I'm talking about AA games. The issue with AA games, though, is the rating asked. Games have to be between 50 and 70% in their rating. Now, at that point, you're supposed to have a graphics studio, and to have it furnished as well, and full of people, at least somewhat full of people. But a sound studio, it depends really, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't have one. Or at least not a big one. Either way, whenever you reach the third building, this is when you can have a sound studio for sure. And also increase the size of your QA rooms. Yes, plural, because you'll need 2. Look, I'm glancing over some things because this video is already really long. But basically for QA, when you can, do 2 different rooms and make one with only game testers and one with only game designers. And the testers, ask the testers to do small improvements and to work on bug fixing afterwards, and ask your designers to make the big ones and to polish after. 70% though may be hard for some genres. Some others are definitely doable now, like skill, puzzle, RPG, adventure, strategy games. Those may be doable. Others may be a bit harder. However, if you do have a sound studio, this will get much easier, and the big one you will struggle with, actually, the biggest is fighting game. But another one you will struggle with is skill game, because now, at that point, you do not make enough tech points. So this is big, and actually you have to pivot quite hard. But that's fine. You're still covering most genres, and remember about stars too. Each star is about 3 to 5% extra rating for the genre, no matter if you know your shit, for them or not. Once you reach this level for AA games, things go quickly. Way too quickly to even really keep up. You will unlock a lot of rooms, and one of them especially, the training room. Make sure you have some space for one, because this is a really important room again. How important? It's the most important room for the 90s and 90s. Training your devs, sound artists, graphic designers, this is really important. The more points they have, the faster they work. And speed is definitely key in this game. That's an old reference. Maybe you got it. Speed is key! Once you master AA games, though, you'll be greeted with your first AAA game. And of course, the amount of money this can give is absolutely insane as well. You can basically get $25 million for a single AAA. But of course, minimum asked rating is 65%, and max is 85%. So have fun with that. Is it doable? Yes. Sometimes. Depending on the genre, and, now it's also a question of rooms. if your rooms are good enough, that's fine. But it's also, at the time AAA games are released, you should have also the last remaining room to unlock. Maybe. No, you won't, actually. AAA games are unlocked in 1989, and Mocap Studio is in November 1993. So you will have those 4 years where it will be quite difficult, actually, for AAA games to reach. But, of course, the big thing that is missing for some of your games, that will be the star rating, which sometimes means that a game just physically cannot get over 80% just because you don't know it enough, even if everything is perfect on it. And starting there, this is when you have a whole lot of freedom to do whatever you want, though. As long as you keep making AAA games, all of them, that you can at least, when you reach this point, this is not when the game loses interest, but this is where my video is going to end, because holy shit, I've been talking for a while, and also I'm starting to lose my script. But anyway, talking for so long, in fact, that I just want to move on. And so, we'll do that. We'll move on. And thank you for watching this video. Hopefully, this one does count for more of a guide, okay? Because I have really gone into the details of stuff and everything, so I hope that I helped you making your games. I go maybe a bit fast. I wanted to keep this video just under 25 minutes. But there we go. This is my 5th page of script, so you gotta give me a bit of leeway here. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I can help you to learn more about this game. And don't worry, more videos are coming soon. Hopefully a new one for April Fools, but stay tuned for that. Yeah. Also, you can catch me on stream sometimes on YouTube, so right here. And you can also just like this video, subscribe to the channel to not miss any videos I may release in the future. With that said, take care everyone, and see you next time.